happy birthday, Adam Schefter. Hope you like your gift.
Yeah, I love you, Rich. Very much. Appreciate it. It was a lovely day, and it's been quite a journey. I appreciate you being a part of it.
Dude, come on now. As I mentioned on the show yesterday, you're Benjamin Schefter. You're Adam Button. I mean, you look, you get younger. You get younger, Adam. I got to tell you.
I don't know that I feel that way, but I appreciate you saying that. And like I said, I've been very blessed to work with a lot of great people like you and a lot of the people we work with in Culver City and now here in Bristol. And
Bristol, Connecticut.
Fortunate.
So who's the next coach of the Rams? What do you think? You think Gruden's tempted? Speaking of worldwide leader?
No, I don't. I think there's been a lot of talk about a lot of big names that aren't going to materialize there. I think that, again, they've got a long, exhaustive list. And I'm sure they're going to look at Jon Gruden and any other big name that's come up in connection to that job. But the fact of the matter, I just think that the search focuses elsewhere. There's a lot of great coaches out there. I don't think Jon Gruden's taking the job in Los Angeles at this time in his life. It wouldn't surprise me if one day Jon Gruden went back to coaching, but I don't believe it's the Rams' job in 2017. Just not what I see.
Is it something you can handicap right now? I mean, what about Josh McDaniels? Is it one of those things that he'd kick the tires on it, or has he, best to your knowledge, had any conversation with Bob Kraft about, well, when Bill goes, I'm your guy, in the same way that Bill was going to be the Jets guy when Parcells went, even though we saw how that turned out?
That conversation hasn't happened, Rich, and there's no reason for it to happen because the truth of the matter is, we don't know how much longer Bill Belichick is going to coach. And I'll say this, the man shows absolutely no signs, zero signs of slowing down or letting up at all. So I don't know whether he coaches 5 more years, 10 more years, 15. I mean, he's going at a very strong rate. When you talk to the people in that organization, the one thing that's very obvious is that I don't care how old he is, he acts with the youth and energy of someone who's significantly younger. So who knows when that day comes? And there's no reason for the Crafts to have that conversation with Josh McDaniels because he's going to have umpteen other opportunities that come his way this offseason, next offseason, whenever it is that there's a fit for him and a fit for the team. I would think the Rams call him. I think the Jaguars call him. I would think that the multitude of teams that have openings this offseason, and there will be plenty, will call him. Look, if we go back, Rich, and look at this, since 2000, there are, on average, 6.8 head coaching changes made per year. And that's roughly right where we're going to come in again this year. We've already had 2, probably get 4 or 5 more. And we'll see where it shakes out.
Well, you already said, because I read you all the time, Adam. Follow you on Twitter at Adam Schefter. And don't forget who was the one who told you to use your name when you started on. I remember when you walked in the door saying, I'm on Twitter. I remember that day, Adam.
Yeah, you did.
And who was the one? Who was the one who said, "Don't let's get rid of that underscore, let's get rid of all that stuff and use your name"? Who's the one who told you that, Adam?
That was you, Rich. That was you. Credit what credit is due.
Again, happy birthday again. But anyway, because I saw you said Rex is most likely going to be fired in Western New York. Why? It's just I understand that they're not in the playoffs again. But it's just 2 years. They're not at a 3-win or a 4-win team here. Why is he on the hot seat?
Well, let me say this to you. First, I don't like making definitive declarations at this point of the year because things change, right? So the Bills are in a position where maybe they win their last 2 games and maybe they finish 9-7 and maybe they eke their way into the playoffs, as unlikely as that would seem right now. So it's something like that happens. The dynamics change and thoughts shift. But I can tell you this: the Bills are preparing as if they will be making a head coaching change, and we'll see what happens with that, whether they decide to do that or not. And I think Rex, is aware of the fact that he very well may be coaching his final 2 games with the Buffalo Bills, and we'll see how that goes down here the last 2 weeks. And I just think that, their defense, oddly enough, has not gotten better since Rex has taken over. They're still struggling in certain positions through no fault of Rex's. And I just think that, I don't know, that a couple of years in, sometimes people recognize both sides. You know what? We're probably better off without each other going in a different direction. And I think that he's done some things that will have them shaking their heads and vice versa. And I just think that, again, barring some unforeseen miraculous play, I think that they're going to definitely consider that.
Now, in I know you say you don't like making declarative statements on this because things change, but you are the mongerer. Don't forget, you made a heck of a declarative statement about that job years ago.
That, Rich.
That's right, because it was your birthday.
It was my 40th birthday.
That's right. Well, you called that one. You hit that one right on the head with the Raiders making their coaching change years ago. Give me one, though, that you think would be the surprise, because there's always a surprise of that 6.8. There's always that one that's that surprise, like, wow, I didn't think that guy was on the hot seat. Where do you think that might be in the NFL?
It's a great question, and I don't want to give you a surprise just because
okay.
I'm not comfortable doing that, because there are always little things floating, and as soon as you connect somebody to a potential job change, that becomes a headline. And I don't want to do that to anybody in any particular situation. I will tell you this. There will be a surprise this year, Rich. There may be a couple of surprises this year, Rich.
Look at you dropping breadcrumbs, Schefter. Look at you dropping breadcrumbs. Do you think the NFL would have hit a team using a walkie-talkie harder if it was Belichick talking to Brady for those 5 plays?
The league will tell you no. I would think yes. And I'll say this. Let me phrase it a different way. People around the league think yes. When you talk to the people on other teams, they think that would have been the case. If it were another team that was not held in the same regard as the Giants, that did not have an owner as powerful and as connected as John Mara, other people believe that the penalties would have been more severe, yes. Now, you could say that there is no record of this. They had never done anything like this, and I agree with all that. That's all accurate. The fact of the matter is there was a walkie-talkie on the sideline. It was a clear violation. It was captured. The point that a lot of people raised to me was the NFL's got people there watching for sock violations and cleat violations, and this is going on right in front of everybody. How could a head coach be allowed to have a walkie-talkie? Another coach said to me, Giants and John Mara adamantly denied that there was any conversation going on in the final 15 seconds of the play clock, and that's fine, but that doesn't change the idea that the Giants had the opportunity to communicate with their quarterback in the final 15 seconds. And so just the appearance of it, I could tell you this, angered a lot of people around the league. That's a fact. And a lot of people thought that, yes, if it were another team, there would have been a different penalty. But it was the Giants, and the league imposed what it felt was a fair penalty. And the league thought that was the right thing to do, and I could tell you others had questions about that.
Adam Schefter joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Couldn't help but notice, I texted you right away when you got your new deal with ESPN.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
You're doing NBA sideline reporting.
Well,
when do we start that? When does that hit?
I am aspiring to follow in the footsteps of the great Susie Schefter and do things like that.
Now you got large shoes to fill there, but not
yes.
figuratively.
I'm going to try to do that. And you know what? Listen, over the last few years, somehow playing some fantasy basketball on our ESPN Fantasy Basketball League, I've gotten into the NBA. So I think they just said it kind of as a fun, creative thing. Look, don't get me wrong. I think some people I've had a lot of people come to me and say, oh, what games you doing, how many games. No, I think there's a chance I'm going to be doing my first game in February, mid-February.
Okay. That's great.
After the Super Bowl, and that's a distinct possibility right now. It would be a very exciting first assignment. So I don't know how many games that'll be a year. Actually, the funny part is that more people have said something to me about that, the NBA sidelines, than the podcast that I'm going to be doing. That I'm excited about.
Now look, you know me with podcasts and about promotion. But before I let you do that, though, and before we discuss that real quick, I had Ernie Johnson on last hour.
Yeah.
And I asked him I asked him if he had any advice for you to join the NBA reporting community. Here it is. Play it. Here, go for it.
Adam's as good as they come. I will think that there may be a time or two where he will be extended in the right arm, raising the microphone to some of these guys. He may be in for a rude awakening should DeAndre Jordan have a big game or Hassan Whiteside have a big game.
You're going where I think you're going, which is ESPN should get an Apple box or two ready for Adam.
Rich, did I say that? I did not.
No.
I would just think maybe some plyometric exercises, something like that, in anticipation for it. But seriously, he's going to be awesome. He's great at everything he does, and every time I watch him, I'm like, wow, how does this guy know all this? And so I'm sure he'll pour that same enthusiasm and work ethic into doing the NBA. So I can't wait to see him. It's going to be great.
That's
What do you
very
think,
kind,
Ed?
Rich. I appreciate Ernie. He's the best at what he does. He's phenomenal. That studio show is a model of what studio shows should be. So I appreciate those kind words, and that's very, very kind of him. And yeah, I'm going to wear as high heels as I possibly can to do those interviews. But
Well,
listen,
Susie can help you with that.
Like, I mean, it's not like Mark Stein or Rachel Nichols, or these twin towers of reporters either. Like, I'm taller than them, I think. So what's the big deal?
Now, what is the pod? When are you starting that? Have you started it yet?
It launches January 10th. It's going to be a weekly thing, and again, we'll see how it evolves. But I'm really fired up about that because back when I was in Denver at the Denver Post every Sunday, I had a column called "Know Him or Her" from Adam, and I get to interview whoever I want as long as there was some sort of sports connection. So this is sort of a 2016 ESPN version of that, where as long as there's one little connection to football, I get an excuse to interview that person about lessons they've learned and advice they would give and things they've picked up. And I think it'll be kind of fun. I'm really fired up about it. And, again, it'll debut January 10th. And you know how these things work, whether they're on iTunes or Spotify or whatever the heck they are. I have no idea how that even works.
Well,
the ESPN technological team will take care of all that. I'll just do some interviews, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, one thing you shouldn't worry about with ESPN is distribution. Don't worry about that. They'll figure that out.
I'll leave that to them,
They have the pipeline. They got the pipeline. Don't worry about that. And who's your first guest? You got the first guest lined up?
My first guest?
Yeah.
I think my first, we're working on it right now.
Rich Eisen, first guest.
You come on. I'm here. I'm raising my hand. You want me to beg to be your first guest?
You know who's going to be a guest one day? I got a text upon the news of the podcast, and I got a text from the Glaze, and he wants to come on the podcast. I said, we'll get that done.
Oh, yes. Come on now.
Yeah, that'd be
Don't
fun,
you remember
right?
we did that at the Super Bowl years ago. It was you, Glaze,
exactly.
and a very little known Mike Florio at the time. Remember that? It was in Tampa Bay years ago. Hey, Adam, happy birthday. Best to you and yours. Love you. Take care of yourself.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it. Happy holidays to you and the family.
You got it. That's Adam Schefter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.